Hi, thanks for watching this. We're about to record our podcast for the TV show Once Upon a Time. This is for the episode Strange Case. So if you're new to this podcast or you're watching here on YouTube, the best way to get our podcast is subscribe over at oncepodcast.com. That's where you can also get all of the past episodes, even those that aren't available here on YouTube. So here we go now with the audio podcast. Uh-oh.
What?
My computer just froze.
Oh.
There we go. Oh no, I started thinking, oh no, everything just froze, but the mouse cursor froze and the computer stopped responding at all.
Your ears, I can still hear you.
Yeah, well,
It's a different computer.
we're talking through a different device. Yeah,
Oh,
which
okay.
is good. Okay, so I need to double check, make sure the stream looks
Can the chat room
like it's
hear
fine.
us?
Chat room, does everything seem fine still to you? It's like I lost control of the keyboard.
Maybe just you were typing too fast. It says the camera. Ash says the camera is still okay.
Okay.
And should they be able to hear us? Oh, I guess they heard us because you asked. Right.
Okay, so it's like my keyboard is dead, which I'm using my Mac keyboard. This is really weird. Yeah, the keyboard and the mouse, the touchpad doesn't work. Oh, this is really weird, but can I press this? Yes, I can press that. Okay, we're back on track.
You're like, that's all that matters is that I can press it.
So the computer never froze. The keyboard did. It's got some kind of protection spell on it, just like that one on Henry's phone. So here we go then. Try unplugging and plugging in the keyboard. It's built into the computer. It's a laptop, so there's no unplugging the keyboard. That would void the warranty. Here we go for real with the podcast in 3, 2, 1. You're listening to Once, episode 263, Strange Case, Initial Reactions. Welcome back to another episode of Once, the unofficial podcast for ABC's TV show Once Upon a Time. I'm Daniel J. Lewis.
I'm Erin.
And we've watched this episode, Strange Case, which I expected it to have the word A in front of it. That's completely irrelevant. Remove that. We just watched the episode Strange Case, the 4th episode in this season. And here are our initial reactions. We'll be a bit all over the place. We haven't sorted things out. We might not have heard things or seen things correctly. That's why we do our upcoming full discussion on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time at oncepodcast.com/live. Please join us then and send us your feedback. And you can see all of the feedback information and share this episode over at oncepodcast.com/263. I thought this episode was so good in its dialogue between Rumple and Belle. I thought this must be an Espensode, but it's not.
It's not, is it? I don't know. I agree. I like the dialogue. And as everybody knows, I'm not the biggest fan of that pairing of characters, but yeah, there was some really good dialogue in this episode. And I had a couple laugh out loud moments, which is becoming more and more rare with Once Upon a Time. So I enjoyed that.
This episode was written by David H. Goodman and Nelson Solar. And the big thing when we're talking about this dialogue, I don't like what was said and what happened between Rumple and Belle. But the quality of the development there was good. But I think probably everyone was just thinking, ew, Rumple, really? You're going to put her in a box? You're going to cage her and make her love you that way out of necessity? Okay, guys, take a lesson. Do not do that.
It's like, sorry, I'm trying to find one of the things I wrote.
It's okay. Edit
It's
point.
like someone in the episode said, it's always out of one prison and into another with her. That's so accurate. That's been basically everything that we've seen of Belle. And even when she's been air quote free, she's not really free from him. So she's
Yeah.
still stuck in the prison of that, abusive relationship.
It's like the mafia. Just when you think you get out, they reel you back in.
Well, and even his talk at the end that, um, she says threats won't make me love you again, and he says no, but necessity will. Like that's not love. That's
No.
that's necessity. That's comfort. That's not love. So even if she does go back to him out of necessity, it's not love. And I feel like he of all people should know the difference.
And I think it's safe to say at this point, probably most of the audience would agree the way that Rumple is treating Belle is a form of abuse. Definite abuse. I mean, trapping her and all of this stuff. It sounds like how the mob boss would try to get someone to love him. It just, ugh. It kind of makes me not want them to work things out. I mean, ultimately, yes, I want them to work things out. But Rumple has some serious changing to do.
And I feel that through these 6 seasons of Once Upon a Time, or 5 and changed, he has made it abundantly clear that he cannot, will not, and has no intention
Yeah.
of ever even trying to change for her.
And it sounds like he wanted the splitting potion to work so that he could remove the love from himself. Now, Cora found a way that she pulled her heart out and that kept her from having any feelings. Maybe he thought that wouldn't work on him for some reason. And so he needs this potion, or sorry, the serum. They corrected all of us, I think, in this episode, clarifying that.
And I was wondering at first, before he kind of revealed his end game of that, whether he wanted it to remove the darkness from him,
Yeah.
which would have been much more admirable of a goal.
I also wonder if it's back to this whole cleaving himself from the dagger kind of thing, that he wants to keep all the magical power, but not have that tether holding him back, allowing him to be controlled by someone else, which we saw. That was a nice twist of events to see Hyde then taking control of the dagger and thus Rumple.
There were a lot of good twists in this episode. I really enjoyed the twists, and they kept coming. Like right until the very end. And then they even commented on it. One more twist.
Yeah, the whole Dr. Jekyll being the villain kind of thing. I don't know. Yeah, he was fighting with the woman he loved and being a little bit abusive about that, and then killed her accidentally. No, it was although the way they filmed it, it does kind of look like he pushes her out the window, but I really don't think that was Jekyll's intention.
I agree.
And then this whole thing of, oh, now Jekyll is going to do something to Belle and harm her in some way to get back at the Dark One. That came out of nowhere. Despite some of that stuff, I still feel like this was maybe the best episode of the season so far. I know we only have 4 episodes so far from this season, but maybe the best.
And see, I just watched last week's and this week's literally back to back. I went straight from one into the other. That I was actually a few minutes behind watching live because of that. And I really, really loved last week's episode as well. So it's hard to say, but I liked how much last week was kind of a throwback to season 1, which this one was in a way as well. So I kind of like the pattern that they're taking with season 6 so far as like they're telling the stories in the way that they used to tell them.
Yeah. And very surprisingly in how quickly they moved the plot along. Like Zelina said,
I thought it would take weeks and weeks of battles and twists and turns, and there you go doing it day 1.
Well, not quite day 1 now, but episode 4, and the villain is defeated.
Yeah, it's almost like it was a false like a false villain.
Kind
Like
of.
we kind of thought it was going to be at least until the end of this until the mid-season finale that we were going to be dealing with Jekyll and Hyde, and it's already done.
Yeah, kind of like in season 4, we thought, oh, they're setting up Elsa to be the villain. But then once season 4 actually started, we got to see, no, Elsa's not the villain. The Snow Queen is.
Yeah. And we're kind of back with season 1 villains too.
Yeah, which is really cool.
Back with Rumpelstiltskin and the Evil Queen.
Yeah. So the only way for the Evil Queen to be defeated, or at least what they're telling us from this episode, is to kill Regina, which is something we theorized before. So yay, we got that right. But I was disappointed to see that my theory on what I think was a really clever theory, if I do say so myself, which I am, the theory of Jekyll being the fake and Hyde being the original, that proved to be wrong. Although this whole thing about Jekyll being the villain, maybe. But Regina's going to die?
I think that they might think that's the only way, but I feel like if they somehow get them tethered back together, then Evil Queen will just go back into suppressed Regina and they can live as they were.
Right. Yeah, and I think that will be the solution if, Jekyll can't create the serum anymore. Maybe
but they've got Dr. Whale now.
That's true. And they have that rock that maybe there's some way they can extract the serum from that rock, or they have a baby dark one forming right now. Do you realize that, though? Belle's baby is the first direct offspring of a dark one that we know of, at least. But of all of the dark ones, they never had a direct offspring from when they were a dark one. So that could kind of make sense how Morpheus could do the things that we've seen him do.
Yeah, because he's got, he should, I don't know, because it seems sketchy to me that the Dark One's power would transfer that way, but I guess it could.
Speaking of transferring power, our heroes transfer incredible power to keep the podcast going, and we could not do this podcast without that wonderful Care Bear stare kind of, maybe Marvel's, what was that? Maybe the Guardians of the Galaxy idea is a better way to think about it in a cooler way, but in whichever way you prefer, whether you have the power of the Care Bear stare or the power of Guardians of the Galaxy, our heroes keep the podcast powered episode after episode. So for this episode, I would like to thank David Newland and Lisa Slack and our 28 heroes on Patreon. Thank you very much for your kind support of Once Podcast. If you would like to be a hero too, and you haven't been a hero, or maybe it's been a little while since you've been able to be a hero to the podcast, then please go to oncepodcast.com/hero. You get access to cool things like our bloopers and other fun stuff that we'll be having in the future. That's over at oncepodcast.com/hero. And thank you for your support. So we got two characters in this episode, one new character, completely new character, and one old character. Now, Aaron, what do you think of seeing Dr. Lydgate again?
Why are they doing this to me? That's literally what I wrote because I was behind, so I wrote it in our private chat for co-hosts. I was like, "Is that who I think it is?" It is. I don't understand because I even confirmed from watching the last episode why Anastasia wasn't Anastasia, Cinderella's sister, when they did that last week. And then now they have Dr. Lydgate here, and he's from fictional London. So does that mean Jekyll? Beep. Does that mean Jekyll and Hyde are from fictional London also?
Yeah, which I think has to make sense, since the only way for them to be able to travel to the land of untold stories is to get there from another magical realm. There are all of these different realms, different lands connected by magic. Jefferson told us that in season 1, and the Hat can travel to many of these. And because they're magically connected, there are doors that can be opened between them, either literally or metaphorically between them. So it does kind of make sense. But a funny thing to think about here is, since this is Dr. Lydgate, he's from Once Upon a Time in Wonderland. That means that Alice is somewhere else in this world. Maybe she is in maybe she is in Dr. Lydgate's quote hospital, unquote, more like prison right now, and he is interested in this potion to use on Alice. Maybe this treatment that they refer to in Once Upon a Time in Wonderland was actually something from Dr. Jekyll. Wouldn't that be crazy?
Oh.
But it's also possible that the timelines are just slightly shifted enough that no, Alice right now is actually in Wonderland. She's not here in this fictional London.
Well, and so that would make sense with why Dr. Lydgate seems so open to kind of, I know it's still science, but kind of this magic science thing, because he really doesn't believe Alice he's mostly in the pilot episode of Once Upon a Time in Wonderland. And I think I've always assumed that the type of therapy that they were sending her for was like electric shock. And I think that's just from watching Oz, where they do that to Dorothy to make her try to forget when she's in an institution like that. But that is a very interesting angle. And I'm sure that we're not going to find out, because they like to torture us with these little Wonderland Easter eggs and not actually tell us any more of the story. But we can dream.
Yeah. The other new character then that we got is Jasmine. And this is Karen David, who played Princess Isabella from Gallivant. I had heard a rumor that she would be coming. Actually, I saw someone tweet or something that she would be coming to Once Upon a Time, but I didn't know what character she was going to play until, of all things, Mark Isham did a Periscope, a live video stream on Twitter of something I thought was going to be music related with Once Upon a Time, like a scoring session or something. And he said, "Oh, we're getting to see episode such and such." And he pointed the camera at Karen David and said, "There's Jasmine." It's just like, oh, spoiler.
Yeah. I basically stayed off Twitter all week because I hadn't seen last week's. I hate the spoilers. I haven't seen any major ones this season, which is good, but I'm surprised he was allowed to do that. But I guess maybe that was public knowledge. We're just so spoiler free.
Yeah, it had, I think a press release had already been published that she would be coming back, and probably some official announcement. That's maybe what I saw at some point, but I didn't see who. And I know Jacqueline and Hunter probably knew that Karen David would be playing Jasmine probably for a month or so. They're so on top of the spoilers.
Yeah. See, I assumed she was Jasmine when we first saw her in the episode, just because we know that Aladdin is here and because she looks like she could be Princess Jasmine.
Yeah.
But at the end, when Snow gave her the apple, what I thought could have happened was that she ate the apple or took a bite of the apple and that it had been poisoned for Snow, and then it was some like secret plot twist that someone was actually still trying to kill Snow, and whatever. But then the creepy kid came out again, and do we know who she is yet?
Well, as soon as I saw the staff, because we saw the staff before we saw the creepy kid, the Oracle, I thought, it's Jafar. No, it's creepy kid, which could still be Jafar. We don't know, because I still think this, and in fact, actually, let me say it this way. I think that this episode further confirms the idea, or gives further evidence that the Oracle is actually Jafar in disguise, because of the way she's using that staff, the way that this episode makes her out to be kind of villainous. And after all, now that Jekyll and Hyde are dead, who's going to be the new villain? Once Upon a Time always needs a villain, so who's that going to be? Probably not Aladdin, because he's supposedly the savior. But it could make sense that it's Jafar, especially with how well I think they cast Jafar here.
But wasn't that Oracle in the opening? It might have been episode 1 of this season.
Yeah.
Wasn't she in the hut with Aladdin?
She was, but that doesn't mean the Oracle we see today is the same one.
Oh, so it could be him in disguise.
Right.
I'm trying to think of if Jafar did that in Wonderland. Like, was
Oh.
that one of his things that he did, was
So
disguise
that
himself?
could explain why we're seeing a different Jafar now than we've ever seen before. Oh, okay, retcon can work sometimes, sure. But in any case, though, Jasmine and the Oracle seem to be allied, looking for Aladdin. For love or for revenge or something else malicious. I think they're setting them up to be villains. What do you think?
It seems like that. I don't really want Aladdin and Jasmine to be villains because I really like that story,
Well,
even if they give us more to it.
I'm not saying
But
that Aladdin is a villain, although he could
but
be.
but Jasmine and the Oracle girl, who might be Jafar.
Right. Think back to the first episode of this season. That man was running to Aladdin saying, "Save us, save us." And what if Jafar was only one threat? The other threat was actually Princess Jasmine, because Jasmine was talking about, oh, the princess could have saved her land, but she didn't. Something like that she was saying. And I really think she was basically talking about herself.
Yes, that's true. I also believe that in the original Disney Aladdin, Jasmine was under a spell for a while from Jafar that made her kind of mean, if I
Yeah,
recall
I
correctly.
think so too.
It's been a while.
Yeah, and there were so many Disney Aladdin movies. So
Yeah.
many split personalities from Robin Williams as well. It's like he drank the potion and then his splits drank the potion and then those splits drank the potion. It's like how viral something can go. So, hey, think of that when you want to tell someone else about the podcast. Ask them to tell someone else too. And then the podcast can go viral as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Anything else of major importance to talk about?
No, I just had a comment about the dwarfs, but it's actually not really important.
Okay.
Just more eye rolling. So I'm good.
I'm looking over a four-leaf
Oh, there was a
clover.
question from the chat. I don't know if you want to address that.
I'll
in the
address that in a little
podcast.
bit. Yeah. Not in the podcast, but
Okay.
I'll
just
address
in
that
the-
after.
Okay.
What do you think of Rumple with his new haircut?
I wonder if Bobby Carlyle needed to get that for like another role he's doing, and that they just decided to make it part of the show. I don't think we've ever seen him look like that at all.
Yeah, it's a good look for him. Actually, I think it makes him look younger.
Yeah, for sure.
A bit.
Brings out his eyes, apparently.
Yeah. And Dachshund said this in the chat room during the live show on Sunday night. He said, so who's going to steal the hair of the Dark One to make a curse? Which I could see that being a thing. You know, maybe Hook is like, oh, we have to defeat him. If only we had a lock of his hair, but he cut it all off. Wait a minute. Let's go find a lock of his hair and we'll be able to cast some curse or something.
That is so good. And I imagine that he, as Rumpelstiltskin, would know. And that hair is probably all like in a bag, a baggie in his like vault, because he probably knows how valuable that is. Because that's how he made Emma the Savior, was through Snow and David's hair.
Yeah. Now, one of our other walking Once Upon a Time encyclopedias, Matthew Paul, our other forum moderator, did point out that Bobby Carlyle shaved his head for Train Spotting 2 before he filmed Once Upon a Time Season 6. He was wearing a wig for the past few episodes.
Oh, so they just wrote it in when it was appropriate.
Yeah.
Well, that works.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I don't think there's anything else then to say. I need to choose my closing, though.
Oh, I didn't even have
I had a couple.
Killing the Original.
Oh, yeah. That one. That's what I want. Oh, I can't bold it because I can't use my keyboard right now. Okay. So what do you, listening right now, think is going on? What are your theories on this? Who is the new villain? Is Jasmine a villain? Is she a good guy? Good girl? What's going on? How does Aladdin play into this? Jafar, all of this. And we want to hear your theories for this. And please send those theories to us. Our contact information is on the website in the show notes for this episode at oncepodcast.com/263. Send that to us before Wednesday afternoon so we can incorporate it and try to incorporate it into our upcoming full discussion of this episode of Once Upon a Time. And we do those full discussions on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time over at oncepodcast.com/live. Please connect with us on Twitter at OncePodcast and follow each of us individually on Twitter. I'm Daniel J. Lewis on Twitter at The Ramen Noodle.
I'm Erin, and I'm on Twitter at Erin J. Cruz.
Please tweet this episode out by going to oncepodcast.com/263, as well as sharing it on all of your other favorite social networks, whether that's Pinterest or Reddit or Google Plus or Facebook or anything else like that. Until I'm totally messing up this ending. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to let this space go in here. And so after Erin, just cut to this and fix the timing with the music, which I know you can do because you're a magician. In fact, this closing quote will work well for that. Where'd it go? There it is. We'll be back with our full discussions soon. So until next time, congratulations, dearie. You're a genius. And thanks for listening. I still kind of messed this up, the music. Let me try that again. Because I want to say it kind of the way he did, so let me think about that. Okay, I think I got it. We'll be back soon with our full discussions. So until next time, congratulations, dearie! You're a genius. And thanks for listening. Once Podcast is a proud member of Noodle.mx Network. Find more of our award-winning and award-nominated podcasts to make you think, laugh, and succeed at Noodle.mx. Big thanks to our heroes for supporting this episode of the podcast. If you would like to be a hero too and get access to cool bonuses, then please go to oncepodcast.com/hero. And thank you for your support. Okay, we are finished.
I just want to say I did not almost forget my Twitter again. I just had coughed, and so I had to get back to my mic. There was like a hesitation.
Okay, so the question from the chat was, is it just Daniel and Jeremy on the main portion of non-guest full discussions now? That's from Jiminy's Journal. No, it will actually, this Wednesday, I don't know who's going to co-host with me. Probably Jacqueline. I don't know if Jeremy can make it, but Heather will be joining us now for the rest of this season because she has some great literature background that I think will really tie in nicely with this. And we've really enjoyed the conversations that we've already had with Heather Ordover from Craftlit podcast. And it's a great podcast too, by the way. If you want to hear basically like annotated audiobooks, and they're going through, not Jekyll and Hyde right now, I said that incorrectly in our last episode. They're going through the Count of Monte Cristo. So go over there to craftlit.com, and Heather will be joining us, but not this week. She's traveling, so she won't be able to join us. But so it will be more than only me and Jeremy in full discussions.
Apparently, I sounded very Canadian for a moment in today's podcast because I said bag. Is that not how you say bag in America?
Bag.
Bag.
Although I had a friend that was American, but he would say flag.
Flag. I say
Yeah.
flag, like Canada's flag.
Oh. Maybe it's because of the Canadian Thanksgiving you had recently.
I was with a lot of Canadians for a very long time. Yeah, I was away. I was in the part of Canada that's probably like the most accented as far as just when you live in the city accent is kind of the same as some of your city accents.
Hmm.
Like we sound the same, in my opinion, as a lot of the TV shows. But I was in like very small towns for the last 10 days straight. So
Yeah.
also I saw a very excellent production of Alice in Wonderland today.
Like,
Live, like a theater production
oh, cool.
at one of our festivals. And so then all of this Wonderland stuff in the episode just made me like, because I love Alice in Wonderland, as everybody knows. But yeah.
Well, we're going to head out. This episode will be published a little bit later tonight. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight or watching on the replay on YouTube. Please make sure you're subscribed. And thank you for subscribing over at oncepodcast.com. See you in the full discussion.